So this is just kind of something I hang out and think about from time to time, but I feel like it's relatable. So I last played baseball at the high school level about 10 years ago. My trajectory from there was to go from being a vaguely successful high school baseball player to a vaguely successful non-athlete college student to a vaguely successful musician, believe it or not, and now I'm just a mediocre to bad YouTube amateur personality. I don't know what you would call me at this point. But because I don't know what to call myself at this point, my thought is, how far removed is my fat, out of shape ass from the 28-year-old pros my age who are now creeping up on that, veteran pro status? I'm Mike Trout's age. I wasn't gifted with the God-given abilities as him, obviously, but had I been, and had I not grotesquely blown out my arm and had to give up on my dreams, where would I be right now? It's a pretty cool thought. So I thought I'd put this video together about guys whose skill set is Midland, right around here, who got to face off against their heroes, the pros, guys who are way up here out of the view of the camera, who've trained their whole life every single day, ate, slept, breathed baseball, and it's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool to see two different levels face off and the sportsmanship that occurs just for the love of the game, because the game doesn't matter.
Though they're increasingly less common, non-traditional exhibitions between major league teams and outside competition are about as old as the game itself. Prior to interleague play being introduced in 1997, it was common for teams to schedule opponents from the same city but different leagues. You've got Chicago's Crosstown Classic between the White Sox and the Cubs, which could be billed as a wrestling match most years. And don't forget the New York Subway Series between the Mets and Yankees, although I must add, it's not as interesting now that they're not throwing bats at each other. Unique skill set when you can field a ground bat better than a ground ball. During spring training, teams sometimes enlist local colleges for a sort of a warm-up game. Usually these are Florida or Arizona-based schools in proximity to the Grapefruit League or the Cactus League. Playing a local college immediately after returning from spring training happens as well, like this long-standing series between the Red Sox and Boston College. The Eagles are currently 0-27 in this series, but that's kind of the fun of it, just a day at Fenway. Never say never, but I'm sure these college players have realistic expectations in these games. The pro teams usually take it easy on them too, but just look on Scott Brenneman from Boston College's face as he whacks this stand-up dumbbell against a big league arm. This is fantastic, and this is exactly why these games happen.
College versus pro exhibitions first entered my radar in 2007. April 16th, 2007 to be exact. That was the day of the Virginia Tech Massacre, and a student who was just unwell, man. He ended up opening fire in Norris Hall, an engineering building there on the campus of Blacksburg. He killed 32, wounded multiple others, and it was just one of those lost for words days. I grew up pretty close to Blacksburg, wanted to go to school there at the time, ended up attending there a couple years later. I'm a Hokie. Stop asking us what a Hokie is. It's an ass-kicking chicken from the ACC. We're going to leave it at that. But anyway, as we were watching our TVs horrified that night, so was Yankees owner George Steinbrenner. And that same night, he made a $1 million donation to the Hokie Spirit Memorial Fund. It went on to pay for grief counseling for family members of those involved. He also promised a game that his New York Yankees would come play the Hokies the following season at English Field in Blacksburg, Virginia. Just the coolest sight, the coolest game.
It was a soggy day in front of a record crowd for Virginia Tech baseball. After the national anthem, 32 balloons were released as symbols of those lost in the shooting. Yankees manager Joe Girardi spent a few innings with legendary Hokies football coach Frank Beamer. Derek Jeter, Alex Rodriguez, and the rest of the star-studded Yankees lineup signed autographs for hours following the game. The Yankees handled the Hokies 11-0, but the score didn't really matter. It was the amazing gesture to heal a community in pain that we'll always remember. If just for that day, they were the furthest thing from an evil empire. We've established the goodwill in these games, but I know what you're thinking. Has a college team ever pulled off the massive upset? The answer is yes. College teams are 4-70 in the past 10 years against major league competition. But what if I told you a team has done it twice? And what if I told you that team was a junior college? State College of Florida, Manatee, Sarasota. Again, for those in the back, State College of Florida, Manatee, Sarasota, or SCF for short. Go Manatees. These guys are known for handing the Pirates a big L in 2009 and again defeating the Orioles in 2012. The Manatees' 6-4 win over the Pittsburgh Pirates is sometimes called the Miracle on Grass. The story you don't hear about this miracle is that the big leaguers were actually away in Sarasota playing the Reds. The team that botched this game was actually comprised of AAA and AA prospects from the Pirates, but they definitely should have handled themselves, right? 3 years later, SCF was hosted by the Baltimore Orioles, and this is where it gets awesome. They knocked them off as well. In the words of Buck Showalter, it was a quote-unquote controlled scrimmage where the Orioles loaned a pitcher and a catcher to SCF rather than using their own to make it more competitive, but I don't know, man. You should probably still be able to handle a community college team unless Matt Wieters was just God for a day.
Only 10% of college baseball players go on to experience professional baseball for themselves. But hey, if your college can schedule a day in a major league park, go for it and enjoy every minute of it, boys. Go Manatees!